Hey everybody, this is the Midnight Goddess, and as some of you may know, I recently did a video for the Breakfast Club channel called Let's Talk About Sex, and in it I was talking about sex workers. Now, on that video, I got a wonderful comment from a gentleman named the Peaceable Kingdom, and I am going to go through this comment because he is asking questions, and hopefully that I will be able to answer them for him. So, welcome to What is Sex Work? So, let's get started. So, his comment begins, "Hello, new face on the Breakfast Club. I am not really up on the issue, and I do find some of the Canadian laws you mentioned puzzling. As a general rule, I tend to think, as much as possible, um, and without real harm, people should be allowed to do what they want to do. But rather than spout my opinion, I'd like to learn more. Is sex work a thing? Or maybe is it a lot of different things? Should we consider a dancer, a stripper, a nude model, a phone sex operator, sex workers in the same category as prostitution? And by we, I mean the state, the government, concerned for its safety and welfare for the citizens." So there's more, but I'm going to begin there. Now, the Encyclopedia of Prostitution and Sex Work from 2006 provided the following quote to the website prostitutionprocon.org. This explores the pros and the cons of the controversial issue of legalization of prostitution. Now, the encyclopedia says sex work is a catchphrase created in the last 30 years to refer to sexual commerce of all kinds. Prostitution has varying definitions and in different contexts. Some of these are based on the definition of the prostitution law, or what is illegal. Legal definitions change over time and place, and leading to great confusion. One relies on one definition from the criminal code or from the civil code, as they do not travel well. Despite the difficulty in terminology, prostitution as a sexual exchange for money or valuables is the general definition of prostitution for this work. In this sense, the term sex work is appropriate in this inclusivity. Sex work was conceived as a non-stigmatizing term, without the taint and of the words whore, prostitute, etc. The point of the term is to convey professionalism of sex workers rather than her lack of worth being seen by much of society. Now, basically, what that is saying is that while sex work predominantly talks about prostitution, it does cover multiple facets, such as phone sex operators and strippers, dancers, nude models. These are all fall under sex work. There's a difference between legal sex work and illegal sex work. And while modeling and phone sex, strippers, dancers, etc., is a legal form of sex work, prostitution still falls under the category of a sex worker. Thus, they are hassled and much more marginalized than any other type of sex work. Now, his comment continues, saying, "Some are actually sex workers, but others seem to be sexy workers. In a clean club that obeys the laws, the strippers cannot have sex with customers. There is a new model online, in print, or even usually in person. Um, whatever sex is, um, whatever sex is had in phone conversations is not interpersonal exactly. But with prostitution, it's kind of the point. Yes, you're right. With prostitution, it is the point to have sex. But as you mentioned, the criminal codes are really weird. So I mentioned this before, but while prostitution in Canada is not illegal, the exchange of money is, or having somebody watch your back as your spotter is against the law. Things like that. So they're marginalizing the already marginalized group. And while the other ones that you called sexy workers do fall um, under, that would be a good term for it because they fall under the legal sex work. Whereas with prostitution, it falls into this gray area, which is legal but not legal, but safe but not safe, where we care but don't care about the people who are in this. They need to be unionized. They need to have regular medical checks. They need to be able to practice safer sex so that um, it becomes regulation. And you said in your comment, perhaps it might be in the state's interest to regulate it or even forbid it to control the spread of disease, negligent pregnancies, etc. I'm not asserting that is so, I'm just asking questions. Well, to answer your question, if the state, or in Canada, the province, were to legalize it, it would stop the majority of the spread of disease or negligent pregnancies because they'll be a protected group. They will have access to medical care. They will have access to contraception. They will have access to safe environments. They'll have access to other job trainings and things of that nature. If you can unionize sex work, you would be able to um, take the prostitution out of the dark and bring it into the light because we all know that it's never going to go away. In the last portion of your comment, you kind of raised the question of what could a government do to help out of this situation. Now, what a government could do is change some of the criminal codes because the exchange of money for sex should not be illegal. It is their body to do with as they wish, um, and they need the government support for adequate health care. They need the government support for unionization. The government needs to come in and say, okay, let's get our house in order. Let's help these men and women, transgendered people, be safer in the areas that they're practicing their trade. So, for example, better lit streets, allowing to have spotters to take down license plates, allowed to have work in brothels, allowed to work out of their home, which is much safer than working on the street because when you're on the street, you're kind of out there and